and all this. I broke up with my girlfriend 2 weeks before I went to play Survivor.
No, you didn't.
Oh, girl, I'm telling you, I was going through it.
No, when she's like a BB moment, which is like a beautiful black moment. Did we get any of those in this episode?
Black.
We have a chaotic vibe moment of the
Chaotic bi moment. And you're watching Black Bi Reality.
Black Bi Baddies.
And those who love us. Hello, you're watching or listening to Black Bi Reality Podcast. I'm Nicole Weaver, and I'm an entertainment writer currently working in the reality TV section on Collider, and I am your host. I'm so excited that we have Katurah Topps for a second time talking about Survivor 45 and her life afterwards. I got some delicious black queer tea in this interview that I'm so excited for you guys to hear. But first, baddies, we need a family meeting. So there's going to be so much good reality TV coming up this spring that I wanted to let you know what is coming. Be on the lookout for our recaps of The Traitors, which starts this Friday. Very excited. I'm hoping to have on guests, maybe from the reality TV world. But also my partner, Jordan Scruggs, loves this show, so we will be recapping a few episodes together. Next, Love is Blind Season 6 is coming on Valentine's Day, and I will be back with Quita Tinsley to talk about those episodes after they drop. Next, Couples to Thruple, guys. It's a new show. We have no clue really what to expect, but it's also coming on February 8th. So if you're watching, we will be watching too, and you can catch us talking about it on this channel. And lastly, the end of the month of February, Survivor is coming back for season 46. I want to do something for that, like we did a little something this time for season 45, so just keep on the lookout. The best way to not miss any of this is by subscribing on YouTube or following the podcast on your podcast apps. It doesn't hurt to also follow us across the socials. I try to keep it different, switch it up, and keep it updated. So other than that, that's all of our business in this family meeting coming to a close. And here's our interview with Katurah Topps. I am here with Katurah Topps of Survivor 45. Once again, how are you doing, Katurah?
Oh my God. I'm actually doing really well. It's been a crazy whirlwind experience, and I'm still riding the high.
That's good. I'm so happy to hear that. I actually want to start this off with an apology to you because
no. Why? What happened?
No. Our last interview, I brought up heroes versus villains, and at the time, I thought you would be a good person for the villain side, and I said you were a villain of Heart of Gold. I have rewatched the whole season with Katurah glasses on to prep for this interview.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh no. This is where I got it wrong. You're very much the hero, but I think in stories where no one listens to the hero,
yes,
it comes across as a villain.
Yes to that. Yeah, exactly that. Somebody was asking, oh, would you ever play Survivor again? I'm like, absolutely 100%. And they said, if you had to be on heroes versus villains, do you think you would get cast as a hero or a villain? And I was like, honestly, I think there was a large part of during the season airing where people were calling me a villain or thinking of me as a villain. But in reality, I'm not trying to say like I'm a hero, but I really don't feel like I was a villain at all. Sorry. I think that the thing is opposite. Tell where I am.
I know. That's so annoying.
Around. But yeah, I really don't feel like I was a villain, and I don't want to be a villain.
Yeah.
Calling it as it is means you're a villain. then let me call it as
Exactly. It's like, it's the confessionals. You give good confessionals, and like the villains they are less inhibited. So I
Yeah.
think that's where it leans in it. But even if we even go by like the Bruce versus Katurah storyline, there were so many people who finally were on the Katurah train of
Yeah.
seeing it.
After
But
about what, 15, 16, 17 days?
oh my gosh. But
Oh
before we
my
get to all that,
gracious.
I
Yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about a little bit of your pre-Survivor or early days. So the
Yeah.
first one is that you said, first of all, when did you start watching Survivor? I'm very curious of how Survivor comes into play in your early life.
Yeah, great question. So thinking of me as an adult, I'll start with that because I have a vague background memory of Survivor in my life, like early on. I'm pretty sure in those early seasons, like Survivor was just everywhere. It's like impossible to not
Mm-hmm.
know it. But I didn't really have like a clear recollection of it. And so in 2020, now mind you, I'm a civil rights lawyer, right? So
Yes.
I'm a civil rights lawyer that specifically focuses on the protection and empowerment and growth of Black people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my areas of expertise is addressing systems of harm, such as policing,
Mm-hmm.
that give harm to Black people. So 2020, as a civil rights lawyer, dealing
Yeah.
with policing,
Mm-hmm.
it was rough. It was one of the hardest years of my life. We were extremely stressed with work. I was the attorney handling the George Floyd cases at my large law firm. I was the one who brought the George Floyd case to my law firm and like had to review the footage first. I was also dealing with investigating a lot of the racial disparities around Black people in COVID reaction and
Mm-hmm.
kind of trying to give governments information on why Black people were dying at larger rates than any other group from COVID. So I was constantly surrounded in Black death. There's no other way to put that. I was just constantly being reminded of this is what it's like to be Black in my country. I am constantly under risk. And I just needed something to escape. I needed
Mm-hmm.
something to say, you know what? I am not thinking about this country right now. I'm not thinking about this government. Let me just escape, even if it's not realistic. Let me escape into another world. And I remember I had a deadline due for something and I was procrastinating. And I had a friend over and I was like, let's just turn on Netflix. And we turned on Netflix. I'm like, I just need something in the background. And I saw Survivor, and I think it was season 28. Cagayan, I think that's Cagayan. And I just started watching the first episode because I was like, this show feels familiar. I feel like I know this. And
Mm-hmm.
immediately got hooked. Immediately was like, oh, I don't know this as my adult brain, And then
Yeah.
2020 and 2021, I watched all seasons and then rewatched it again in 2021. And by
Okay.
2022, at any point in my life, if you talk to me, Survivor was just on in the background, literally
Mm-hmm.
at TV. Like it was just like music. It was just always on in the background because it was my favorite show and I got so obsessed with it. So
Yeah.
technically 2020, I would say I started, but I do feel like there's some background knowledge of it somewhere.
That's amazing. And I think very familiar. I'm the same way. During the pandemic, I was in New York. Survivor, the 2 seasons that were on Netflix was what
Yep.
hooked me in. I am still trying to go back to the older seasons as I'm keeping up with newer. But that all makes sense. So my question is, were there any Black female castaways from the past that you were inspired by,
Oh,
wanted
of
to take little things from for your
course.
game? Who?
Of course. They're the only one Black female castaway from the past who's won Vesepia.
Okay.
So after I watched those seasons on Netflix, and I think they only had two, then I was like watching everything. And honestly, it started with me. I was watching a later season where Boston Rob was there. It wasn't quite Winners at War, but it was like another, it wasn't his
Mm-hmm.
first one. And I was like, God, this man is beautiful. I want to see what he looked like when he first got on Survivor when he was young. And so
Yeah.
I Googled what was Boston Rob's first season. It was season 4. And so I picked up starting at season 4, and that happened to be the season Vesepia won.
Okay.
And I remember being so shocked and thinking, oh my God, a Black woman won this show. Surely, there's going to be other Black women who won this show. Let me see their seasons. And there were none. There were
Mm-hmm.
literally none.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we got Marianne in the new era, but that just happened,
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
I remember thinking, if I ever go on Survivor, I need to kind of model myself after Vecepia because, she won in season 4, and then there were no other Black women to win for, I promised myself that if I was with a white interviewer, I would name all the years, season 5, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8, to like show how extreme that was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just knew that if I were to play the game, I have Vecepia in my mind for all of my like Survivor prep notes. It was like, you really don't get to go far in this game as a Black woman unless people view you as disposable and forgettable and in the background and not a threat, because as soon as they find any little thing that they can jump on and say, oh, look at you, you're aggressive, you're violent, you're annoying, you're distracting to the tribe, you're too physical, like whatever it is, those stereotypes will come in and it'll cut you. And I saw that happen with every single Black woman player on Survivor until Marianne. And honestly, Marianne's strategy is very similar to Vecepia.
Yeah.
Marianne got taken to the final 3 because they so underestimated her. They so viewed her as a nothing. That's how we get to Katurah lying about being a lawyer.
Yes. That makes sense. Okay, again, preseason.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm very interested. Of course, you guys have to work with production on the clothes. You have a nice athleisure. You would want that outfit. There's some people who have outfits that are just not right for Fiji.
I got so lucky. Production was awesome with my clothes. I love them.
But is it like, do they then take into account of, hey, I'm not saying I'm a lawyer? And I also noticed you had some gold jewelry, which I also kept in mind that you were so about lowering like your self to be under the radar. I'm like, well, what does the jewelry come into play and the outfit? So please talk about it.
Yes. So we actually had a lot of issues around wardrobe because the theme of Survivor is really to make it look like you just were living your regular life and then you got shipwrecked and now you're on an island stranded. So if you're a lawyer, you would be wearing a jacket or a blazer, and not this athleisure wear. And so they really wanted me to wear this damn blazer that was like a very serious court blazer. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Because I know Survivor fans know the premise behind that. And they're going to be like, why are you wearing a blazer? Like, where does the blazer come in your regular life? And so we had a little bit of back and forth, but I don't know if you'll see it. But basically, obviously production won. And I'm going in the game with this blazer, but I tie it around my waist.
Oh.
8% of the time you see me, there is no blazer.
Okay.
And when you see me with it, it's like day 1 on the barge because, it's our first day and we have to have it on. So I just tie it on my waist so people aren't seeing it on me. And then literally, luckily, when I jumped off the barge on day 1, the blazer was tied around my waist. And so it filled up with water underneath me and it made me sink a little bit.
Yeah.
And so Kelly and I were laughing about how heavy the blazer is, how much water it holds. And I casually was like, you know what? This blazer is cursed. I'm never going to wear it again. And that was kind of my excuse to like put it to the side. And it literally did not come up unless it was like raining and I needed it to protect myself. But I didn't want them to even see me in anything that looked remotely professional or intimidating in any way.
Oh, yes. So that's very interesting because you do pop up in like a brown and it was big. I was like, whose jacket is this? And it was a different blazer, but it was like, it was not yours. I knew that for sure, but that was great. Speaking of Kelly, she is another queer woman who is on your tribe. Last time we spoke, you were like, oh, we're going to bond over, the queer clubs in New York. I'm guessing Cubby Hole.
Cubby Hole, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But what was the other talk? Because we got so much of that in 44 with our very queer purple tribe. I'm like, still hungry for those little nuggets.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing was I quickly recognized that Kelly had a lot of power just by being who she is. and that the men were gravitating towards her. Bruce was gravitating towards her, and the women, of course, were gravitating towards her. And so I was like, I need to make sure that I'm making this connection last. And it just so happened she casually mentioned her fiance one day, and I was like, "You have a fiance?" And she's a woman. Oh, I'm in there. Like, this is perfect. So we bonded about our coming out stories. We talked about like the first time we watched women on TV, gay women on TV. So I think hers is it's not
The
great.
word.
No, not the L word. It's the cute. Okay, this sounds really gay and inappropriate, but the cute gay cheerleaders, Glee.
Yes.
Glee.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that was the first
Santana.
time. Yeah, exactly. That we saw like a lesbian relationship with two femmes. And so we talked about that because Kelly and I are both femme presenting women. So we talked about that. We talked about Cubbyhole. We talked about a few other gay bars in New York and our experiences with that. And it was just really cool to be able to share that. But quite honestly, I mean, obviously I wanted to make sure that I was representing and being explicit in my queer identity on the show. But I specifically was trying to say queer instead of lesbian.
Yeah.
Just to keep all options open, you know, in case I need to strategize by flirting with a guy or like, believe something is a possibility. You know, I kind of came into the game in defense mode. I felt like I had to just prepare for every option. And so I would talk about being a queer woman instead of a lesbian. And she talked about lesbian.
Like, no, I have a fiance. Don't need to worry about that. Okay, got it.
But the crazy thing is, I feel like I talked most about my like same-sex relationships with Dee, oddly enough, on the other side. Because Kelly's and I was like to get to know each other, but it was quickly becoming clear that like, you know, our tribe was going different ways and everything. And so when I finally connected with Dee on the other end, way later, and it was like, oh, this is like a deep friendship is forming. Then I felt comfortable, you know, I talked about my ex-girlfriend and all this. I broke up with my girlfriend 2 weeks before I went to play Survivor.
No, you didn't.
Oh, girl, I'm telling you, I was going through it.
Okay.
I know a lot to unpack.
How are you going? So what was your like mindset, especially that you're seeing a showmance in front of you?
I know. And I was like, damn it, if I didn't feel single before.
Exactly.
I'm so single now. Yeah, it was crazy. But you know, I think that's what Survivor does. It really reminds you of your strength, your power, the people who are with you, the people who are supporting you, and the people who aren't. Because even before going into the game, you know, I was like, I don't want to have an emotional major change in my life right before I go do this really emotionally draining thing of playing Survivor. But I'm also unwilling to be in any space that I don't feel is serving me. And I feel proud enough to say, wow, I'm the kind of person who these casters selected. I'm the kind of person who got on this show, who sent in the video on a Friday night and they called me Monday morning.
Wow.
You know, not to be like too much, but I felt I'm typically a very confident person. And I do think that 2020 and 2021 broke me. Like those were hard years to exist, period. I think for everybody, those were really hard years. You know, it's not common that a freaking global pandemic is happening and people were just dying constantly, but particularly to be Black during that time. That always has to be said, and I'll never stop saying it. I think Black people got a really, really difficult hand during 2020 and 2021 because you watched as my systems, my governments, my communities, and a random plague are all attacking my and I was in a really dark place. And in 2022, I was just coming out of that again. I was coming into my light and like reconnecting to myself and my people and my community and feeling good again. Kind of what led me to Survivor. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling strong again. My therapist is like, "You're doing great." And I'm like, "I know, I went outside today."
We love that.
Yeah. And so I felt very proud of the progress that I was making with myself individually, with myself professionally. And I needed my personal life to reflect that. And so it was kind of like, I didn't want to break up with her, of course, but if it's got to get done, it's got to get done.
It's got to get done. Okay. I'm derailing a little bit.
I know. I'm sorry. Tell me if I get off track and bring me back.
No. I'm derailing, but I'm like, it's a Black queer podcast. This is what this is for. So, are you one of those who are like, oh, we stay friends with our exes? Are you friends with the ex? Did they watch Survivor? Are you chatting about all that? No, we said boundaries. Boundaries.
I will say one of the best gems that I got from Survivor, and I got so many gems, but one of the best ones is, okay, cheesy alert. I'm about to say something really corny. I did not expect to have such a close relationship with another Black queer woman from the show. And I'm telling you, I love Sabiyah like nobody's business. Mind you, I never played one day of the game with her. Not a single day. And I was planning. I was like, ooh, let me get off of this tribe, Lord.
Yeah.
This is somebody who can acknowledge and see me and like actually appreciate me. And fight to be viewed as valuable, right? Let me be around somebody who will automatically know that I'm valuable. So I was so excited to get to her, but we never did. And that's what's so crazy is because Sabiyah is one of the people that I'm closest to from the cast. Yeah. And so I say that to say when the season premiered and, that ex started popping back up, I would talk to Sabiyah and I'd be like, do you think I should call her? You think I should? And Sabiyah almost led me astray.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're about to do something really big and see ourselves on TV. Like it might be nice to have that support system. And, temptation is there. We get a little tempted, but no, at the end of the day, no. I'm so grateful for just the journey of self-discovery that Survivor has given me. And that touches all areas of my life. And I've always been that girl who said, I don't ever worry about a partner like being disrespectful or cheating or not fulfilling what I need because I'm like, if you lose me, that's the biggest hurt you'll have is you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm like, she just needs to live the rest of her life knowing she'll never talk to me again. I know I'm not trying. Nicole, you're gonna get me in trouble.
No. That's relatable.
Like I'm sure she's gonna watch this. And,
just hit block. Just hit mute. Don't even look at it.
She's blocked on everything.
Okay.
I don't. Once I'm done, I'm done.
But what we talked about, you answered so many of my questions because like the last thing you said to Jeff was, I'm on a healing journey. I am growing. So like that answered that. I really relate to you and like cults, like families on both sides, having ties to that, and also having to go no contact with a parent. So then I was going to ask chosen family, like who in Survivor is part of that? So Sabiyah, is there anyone else?
Kendra.
Nice.
Kendra, always Kendra. I love Kendra so much. Yeah, and it's crazy that you mentioned the cult and the family stuff. I really struggled with whether or not I even wanted to bring up the cult on Survivor.
You said it was the first time. So when did you decide that was?
I decided to say it about 10 seconds before I said it.
It'd be like that.
I mean, it really does. I went back and forth, to be fair. I was thinking about it because I did say to myself, I want to make sure that I obviously win, but I want to make sure also that I'm coming in and learning something about me, that I'm walking away in a different state than when I came in. I don't want to just come in and do this really incredible, amazing experience and then walk out and be like, okay, I'm just the same, right? Like I wanted to make sure and give myself space for that. And for people who survive cults the way I have, and it sounds like maybe you have some experience with it, you spend so much of your life keeping other people's secrets. So much of my life, and honestly, even just being a Black person, like especially a Black girl, right? I feel like there's a lot of that mantra: what happens in this house stays in this house. Right? You don't bring the outside world into our business. And there's a lot of historical reasons that Black people have had to protect what happens in their house, right? We know that that can be weaponized against us in many ways, but modernly, I feel like it harms victims because you get used to just being quiet about stuff. And I was 13, engaged to like a 68-year-old white man. That yeah. It doesn't go away. It's not something that goes away. And at the time, I thought it was normal. My whole world, everybody celebrated this. This was a positive thing. And so that just kind of gives you, if you could just imagine what it's like to be a 13-year-old girl preparing for this, right? Getting told what your destiny is, to make babies, to raise children, and to work your whole life. And then being like, oh, when I finally get out of this, yay, I'm on the other side. I get to access freedom. And being slapped with the reality that this country has never thought about giving you freedom and probably never will. It's really like a lot to process. And I'm on this journey of just being like, I've got to do what I got to do to make me feel whole, to myself feel happy. And so I really thought carefully about how I would say it. But in the moment, I was so nervous, Nicole. Like as I was saying it, I waited for the producer who I felt the closest with to come for my confessional. I was like, I need him. You see, I don't even say it till day 20 because I was so afraid of saying it and then getting voted out, and it'd be like I just bared all my soul. I was afraid of like people from the cult coming back to like harm me or like search for me afterwards because my name is Katurah. It was Katurah in the cult, like, very easy to track. But there's something about saying, let me just tap into whatever that strength is inside of me. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, right? Like just, you got strength inside of you. Tap into it and run with it, and it'll be okay.
That's a great message. A great message. Yeah. I was, I'll say generation. I'm probably like second generation. Like I'm seeing the effects of parents being raised in that. And
Gotcha. In cults.
And it's a lot. And like, yeah. So I feel you on all of that. The first time around I told you I skipped the episode. I did watch it last night.
Oh no.
No. I felt like doing it, and I was like, I want to like bear witness to all of your story to talk this time around.
I appreciate that.
I want to talk about, we already talked about, this was more about the letter, but let's talk about the swimming. So I'm very curious, have you swam since? Did we extrapolate that kind of anxiety from
you're asking the good juicy question. This is good because most people just want to know, like, do I know how to swim, and did I know how to swim before Survivor? And that's like a really easy one to answer. But post-Survivor swimming is a whole different thing. I'll first set it up and say, I like the person I am. You don't survive a cult and the childhood and life that I've had without having a spirit of determination. And so when I had it in my mind that I was going on Survivor, I was like, nothing's gonna stop me. Seriously, not a girlfriend that's going off the hinges, not a swimming inability, like nothing. So I hired a personal swim coach way back in like October of 2022, and I took private swim lessons with her every week. And by the time I was getting ready to go into the game, I was swimming 2 hours every day, comfortably. So my swimming skills were still relatively new. I'm not somebody who can say I've been swimming since I was a child, but good to go, right? Like good to go. And I do think it was something about that day, the panic attack day, because I didn't know it was a panic attack. And then no one used that term at that exact moment. And it wasn't until watching the show back and seeing people on Twitter and Reddit and everything, and they would all say, clearly this was a panic attack related to her getting these letters from her mom. I didn't even know it then, though. And it's crazy because when I got the letters, I was so discombobulated. This was a huge reward. This was our biggest reward of the season. It was the first time that we got beds. And I just remember it was 4 of us, and all 3 of the other girls were laying in their own little beds. And I was laying in mine, and I was like, you are so lucky you finally have a bed. You need to sleep. Oh, I couldn't sleep.
I know.
I had about 7 minutes of sleep that whole night.
Yeah.
I sat there sobbing the whole night. And I kept trying to be like, just get it together. Just you need to let it go and just be ready. You got to keep going. And I just couldn't get it. I couldn't. And so the next day, I'm like sleep deprived. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. I'm scared. And I didn't even realize how much it knocked me off track. And so, yeah, it kind of made water feel scary because I connected to the panic attack. And I was just like, did you just regress? You know, like, did your swimming skills just get in the way? Like I couldn't figure out what was happening with my body. So it took me a little bit to get back into water, but I came back home, and all the lifeguards who I got to know too well because I was at the pool every day for Survivor, like, bring your butt back here. We have 21 months. And so I started swimming again, and it feels so good because swimming is like my freedom. You know, I'm like, my ultimate goal as a Black girl was like, I want to swim naked in the ocean. That's what I tell myself. I'm like, I want to be able to swim naked in the ocean. That is the one place that nobody gets to grab me or put chains or restrictions on me in any way. I'm just there. I'm free. I'm a human. I'm connected to nature. And I never wanted to let that go. And so I was like, I am not going to let this moment and Survivor derail me completely.
Yeah. By the way, the dive you did back with everyone was
I was gonna say, our swim instructor was, so she is a professional synchronized swimmer. So she's been in the like Olympics for synchronized swimming. So she's amazing. And I think that's another reason too. Like, always have her in my head, like form, technique. My stroke is amazing. My dives are amazing. You just don't get to see it because I wasn't living free and breathing happy and normal and regular, you know?
Right.
But I know the next time I'm not even getting letters.
Feel you. Oh, next time I'm not even giving letters.
Nicole, we should have done this for an hour because
I know.
I'm looking at the time, like, we need more time together.
I know. I regret it. I regret it so much. But yeah, that answers a lot. I actually wanted to talk about you and Jeff because
that's random.
Because I know it seems it, but I'm telling you, when I rewatched it, I was like, there is something with you and Jeff. Like, I feel that. So one of them was that Jeff turned to you. Everyone was shocked when Sabaya was sent home. Right. Obviously, you said didn't even play with her, probably never talked to her, but he asked you, like, what's this reaction? And you said, you know, Sabaya seemed to be like the voice of reason on Lulu. Like, what was that read and everything?
Well, I think he probably asked me because I was devastated. Like, I was shocked and I couldn't even hide it. By that time, I was already starting to feel the way Bella was treating me. And I was already starting to get the vibe that everybody's going to follow Bruce, and Bruce hates Katurah, and like, there's no way around it. You know, like, that was the energy I was already starting to feel. So I just kept telling myself, other people, once you get to connect to other people. And of course, I'm thinking of this cool ass chick. I mean, Sabaya just gave strength and confidence, and her energy just said everything that we all thought. Like, she was a powerhouse, and she really gives that naturally. And so I think we were all shocked, but I was like, no, I was like,
got it.
Don't let it go. So I think that's probably why he asked me.
I also think Jeff turned to you a lot during the challenges to like narrate. Was there a reason why?
You know, lucky, I guess. I feel really lucky that I do feel like I got to give a lot of narration to the show. I feel very proud of that and really grateful for that. But I also think I'm just expressive. So, like, I would accidentally be like, damn, or what? Or, oh my goodness, you gotta be kidding me. Like, a lot of that, to where even the guy who was like, he's like, I'm responsible for your mic and all that stuff. He's like, we had so much Katurah little ad libs all the time that it was
Mm,
like, there's Katurah again. So
yeah.
yeah, I think it was just literally a matter of me being overly expressive and, thankfully I'm still relatively new to Survivor. Like I don't feel like I'm a super super fan where I'm that kind of person who's been watching it forever and know all the details. And so because of that, I wasn't as censored with myself. And I think it turns out maybe I guess people like the honesty.
Yeah. All right. It looks like that's all of our time today. It was
Oh,
so good talking to you, Katurah.
always great talking to you, Nicole. I can't
Yeah.
wait till we talk more for other stuff. But yeah,
Yes. Where do you want people following you? What are you going to be doing next?
yes, yes. So on social media and my Instagram, I'm Haute Couture, HAUTEKATUR. But really, I'm starting a YouTube channel. And I'm hoping to like document a lot of my Survivor experiences there and a lot of my time there and just kind of talk about my life overall. So I'm hoping a lot of goodies are coming down the line. So yeah, follow my YouTube at Katurah Topps.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you,
Bye.
Nicole. Have a great day.
You too.